Preparing to stream.
Oh, okay. Oh boy, I feel like I should sit up now.
It's okay. This meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Okay. Okay. So excellent. So, oh Shane, you don't. I don't see.
Oh, you don't see me?
Yeah, like
Okay.
that. Hi everybody, and today is an experimental live stream. I'm basically crowd working for Food for Thought. Just like there is this things that I do on the main channel, just like uploaded videos that are edited and kind of thought through. And on live streams, I decided to work the ideas thanks to the advice of Shliv, Chilat, Chutat. And today, because I'm planning Food for Thought about relationships, like a little bit more, I decided to see how the ideas land on the public. So later on, if you have any questions, leave comments and stuff. And today with me is Shane. Hello, Shane.
Hello.
Oh, let me check in the video how it looks like. Oh, I'm on the other side. So you're on the side of the flower. Interesting. Yeah, so it's like rehearsal basically, but it's live. And when it's live,
Right.
it gives it a little bit more stress.
Right. Open rehearsal? What do you dress
Oh,
rehearsal? Is that what it
I mean, it's like work in a club. You know, it's like stand-up comedians. They go out to the club to see how their material lands on a crowd, even if there is no crowd. It's just like the
is?
idea that this thing might be watched by somebody else. You know,
Yes.
that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Shane is a YouTuber,
Yes.
and like, dude, tell a little bit. What do you do?
I am well, I recently was working at a Taco Bell as a manager.
Wow.
And I'm a laborer, and I yeah, I'm interested in like love and what and yeah, and finding out what cost that incurs. So so yeah, I'm just yeah, I work and I'm interested in YouTube's.
Relationships and
Yeah, and
YouTubes.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just like for a warm up, for like the real conversation can set
Right.
in. I brought in a question from Twitter user called Moral Philosophy, and and the question was, how do you heal a broken heart? And generally, the ideas were, and where do I shine? Have you had your heart broken?
Uh, um, I'd like to I'd like to say no, but I've had uh, close calls, and I don't know if that's an injunction on me where I wasn't like if that means I wasn't truly invested,
Mm-hmm.
or if like so I don't know. I'd like to say uh, no, but I've felt um, I felt like maybe I have, but that always seemed to me like if you have your heart broken, it seems like it's the last like my brother sent me this song called Men with Broken Hearts
Mm-hmm.
since song people here and you know if most of the time I just saw that, okay, if I let this break me, I like maybe it would be genuine, and I'd end up wherever I end up, and that'd be a genuine thing, or I keep it, you know, I like my way of life, and I'm going to keep it this way, and try and feel better, and not have a broken heart. So I don't. The question is, or the answer, I guess, would be, no, I don't feel like I've had a broken heart. I guess, or
I
maybe I,
have.
or maybe I have, and it hurt. Like maybe I'm in the middle of bleeding from one. I don't know.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, yeah. So
I definitely have, like 100% had a broken heart, and I think I broke hearts too. So it's not that simple
yeah,
in a sense.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I,
well, here is the most liked response for that question by Get Wise, also a user from Twitter. Ways to heal a broken heart. Accept the truth. Realize that there is no point in crying over the past. First step of healing. Don't be harsh on yourself. Try to invest your energy in things that make you happy. Start exercising or meditation. Talk to your parents. I mean,
ye-
uh,
yeah,
accept the truth. That one seems like really hard,
yeah,
especially if there is potential there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's not easy to say like whether what like how I don't know, like if something's transpired between you and another person, and let's say they break your heart, it's not easy to say whether or not like I believe that regardless of how somebody acts, that if that love exists between, like, I mean, maybe it's either the moral effort of you that makes you love other people, or love just naturally exists between uh, everyone in some form. Like, and I think it's hard to like the human part of me is like accepting the truth. Okay, what is, I guess it would be accepting the truth between the two people, even if the truth is that, maybe philosophically love exists, but then you have to accept like the truth between the particulars of you and the other person. So yeah, I guess that's what it means. Like, regardless you if you believe in like a static, like, you know, unmoved mover, like who
Oh,
loves everybody. But
mhm.
yeah, I guess he's talking about like the particulars between you and X, or whatever broke your heart, or whoever.
I mean, that I never particularly had a bad breakup. It always was on a very friendly basis, and both were bleeding, both of us. It's
Mhm.
basically things not working out, and uh, we we totally we notice our characters are incompatible. There is nothing we can do, and it would require too much effort to fix it, and 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 somehow that love was not enough to put in the effort, and so I would have to walk away from a relationship, or he would have to walk away from a relationship. So we both would go our separate ways, knowing that there was so much potential. And like we always like talk about particular acts, we keep in touch, and like it was many years ago, but we are still kind of wish each other all the best for the holidays and
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
It was both of us grieving. It's as if somebody died. That was the feeling. Like it's actually very close. That loss is big, and accepting it took a lot of time, because there was always this hope. Let's say he would check on me and said, "Oh my God, you seem like you were crying. Are you crying about me? Like, is that me you're missing?" And I was like, "Oh shit," something like that. So the hope element is really, it makes it harder to heal the heart, because heart heals after accepting to let go. But when you're just still hoping it can be revived, you kind of keep lying to yourself and looking for confirmations how it's still alive, then your heart cannot heal. You just basically putting a fork through it all the time and like twisting it.
Well,
Sorry for being.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do, I think love, even though I think love is like the strongest force in the universe. Like I think love is a force in the universe. And like, so I've been working through Kierkegaard's works of love. So I started that one like a long time ago, and I've like sort of tried to digest the parts that I've read. I've read like the first part of it, and then I know somewhere he talks about well, somewhere he says that there's in relationship to like a loved one, you should still love them as anybody else, as anybody, like the love of the neighbor. He says preferential love is you should have neighborly love, and if you prefer somebody who you should have neighborly love towards everybody, including and not least of which you should love the people that you actually like, that you love easily, or preferentially. So it's like you don't abstain from. I think it makes it easier to love even the one who like you who you love, when we think of like love in the modern world, like preferential love of one person over another. I think it's easier to live when they're included in the fold, and they're actually, you shouldn't love them less because of something that transpired. In fact, it's easiest to love them also, but that love also, like, it's a mix, but like, I think part of healing from like a broken heart is like, well, I think just up, like before a heart's broken, it's like upholding that love for somebody in the face of like, I don't know. Yeah, I've sort of held on to hope as a good thing. Um, and that's like a romantic slash like quasi, it's a quasi romantic move on my part, but I think it's like my grandma and grandpa got separated, and they never like they lived separately, but they loved each other like dearly. And I think like I don't know if that's something that's, yeah, that's something you have to heal from, but I think the healing is like the payment almost. It's like, oh, this love, like I'm feeling healing because of this love. Like or it's not a bad thing that I'm can reminisce about this thing. And I don't know if that's the same thing as hope though. So that's a lot. I
Mm.
don't know. Or maybe it's not a lot. Maybe I'm saying a lot of
It's
nothing. But
uh, I I caught something interesting that you were saying. You should not stop loving another person if they did something.
yeah,
Um, I agree. You should not, because yeah, we are always moving, and we are always evolving, and actions they usually stay in the past, and usually mistakes are a good thing because people learn from them. But sometimes there is this thing that somebody did something, but I know that person uh, is not into learning, it's not into improving. So the person did something and the reaction was like, well, that's who I am,
right.
deal with it. And then I could realize, oh, we are not compatible, because if I will see that in the future, I will not be happy, and whatever beautiful feeling we have right now will be completely destroyed, because I will get to the stage of basically spite. Each time the person I used to love would be like by my side talking, I would be like, oh my god, that guy again. So in order not to get to that stage, I I stop relationship in the
Yes.
past. I stopped the
Right.
relationship in the past. That's why I was able to keep kind of this good memory of a person, like to stop it before it was completely horrible, because I could see the direction it was going, let's say. Yeah, I think I broke my own heart in the past like that,
Hey.
because I if I would see, I would love a person like massively, completely, madly in love, but I could see what will happen, because I had example of my friends that happened to them. The super strong love, they hold on to it desperately, and it would end with hating each other. And I did not want that. So I would be like very carefully looking for signs of bad things, and then I would be like, let's fix that, that was a bad thing, let's immediately fix that. And then the person would be like, no, that's who I am, you have to deal with it. I was like, oh shit. Then I see that will be bad.
Sure.
Yeah. A loss of hope, basically. I mean, there is another thing here, that the guy advises, is redirected attention to new
Mm.
passion. For example, yoga and stuff. So, what do you think about healing by redirecting your passion?
Um, I mean, I watch a lot of certain like certain ideas. Like I found like sort of like certain ideas that um, connect me to connected, like like watching things that, you know, certain things that connect me to connectedness, for lack of a better, like,
Mm-hmm.
like I'll watch things that me and, like, you know, me and my circle would all like enjoy, or I watch things like that me and my cousins used to like watching, like sort of like going over things with uh a new comb, or a new me. Watching something like old is very uh nourishes my uh laughter, or like nourishes my sense of like, oh, that things, you know, that, you know, what is, I forgot what Frodo's friend says. He's like, there are good things in this world, Mr. Frodo. Um, and
Sam.
like, yeah, Samwise. Uh,
Everybody should have a Sam.
yeah, and maybe that's Sam's like Samwise the Brave. Maybe that's his bravery, is to uphold that there are, you know, there are good things. So, yeah, redirected attention, I think really like, um, so I was like, so like I'll exercise, and then, um, I was like, there's not, I don't know what, there's nothing better that I, I'd like to do. I was like, oh, I could read. I was like, I just want to like, like, what do the things around me smell like? Like I was like, that's, and I was doing that, and maybe it's because like I have like I'm trying to cut down on my I smoke American Spirit cigarettes
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while, and I'm like, I don't know if my body's like redirecting me towards the sensory world, because it's like, oh, there's enjoyable,
Mm-hmm.
like, but yeah, I've noticed redirecting my attention, and sort of like, I don't know, I do some stuff to like some things to get in touch with myself that like is very like, I know Terrence McKenna, he was like,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing stopping you, like you can, I don't know, stretching, like there's um yeah, yeah, so I think uh that's advice. Yeah.
Mm. So redirected attention starts with maybe focusing on the outside world somehow. I guess the spirit, American spirit thing is help.
Yeah,
I
well,
haven't
okay.
tried.
So I think, yeah, it's like redirecting outside, and yeah,
Mhm.
getting as much uh I guess having like a allowing, like nourishing yourself with, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah,
whatever that's maybe, you know, I think the American spirits help calm me down, but I think like it maybe helps me like open up to things, but
I
I don't know.
no, but I get it though. It's
Mhm. Yeah.
sometimes we need help to focus from the pain, let's say.
Mhm.
And to me, focusing on the outside things is helpful. And yeah, there are outside ways to make it happen, which is like like that. So yeah, redirecting attention. Also, he advised, get wise from Twitter. he advises talk to your parents. That's like, what if I can't? Like, I literally can't talk to my parents about a lot of things. I mean, that one. How about talking to a wiser person? She's like, yeah. Does that help? Like, how often do you reach for advice from elders, let's say?
Um, uh, pretty, probably once a week.
Oh, nice.
Probably once a week. Once or once every 2 weeks because, you know, the how do you put it? Like probably once every week or once every 2 weeks. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um,
That's cool.
Depending on how well I think I'm crystallizing, how well I'm managing, uh, crystal managing to uh, how good I'm doing. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mm, meditation. That's another one he advises. Like, I guess when you focus on the outside, you get out of your body into the outside world. Like, I walk out and I repeat to myself things I see. Like a country music. Here's a man walking with his dog. Here's a star falling from the sky. Here's a thing. It's like
Oh,
I got into that mode. So I'm not inside, but like I'm just like narrating everything that is going on around me. I mean, that could be a form of meditation. What's your meditation?
um, so tonight, like I was, so I think I try and focus on a number of things at once. So it's like as I'm um like it allows me once I put like, you know, do the work of putting all like the putting things in my consciousness that I feel like need to be there, then I can sort of like it's like opening yourself up to possibility, like
Mm-hmm.
new possibilities. I think it's part of the point of meditation. Um, I think I like I know that, and then like I think also okay, so I don't know why I've been very olfactory in my orientation, but like I've been smelling like I'll do like a workout and then I don't okay, right. I'm like a little bit like obsessed with not obsessed, but I think maybe it's an animal thing, but smell like the sweat and I'm like, wow, this is really like nourishing for some reason. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm getting to know myself. I don't know what it, but that honestly has been like, uh, and I don't know, maybe it's
Oh, that's
like,
why you're exercising so much.
yeah, because I like the, yeah, uh, uh, yeah, yeah, and I think maybe it's like a way to do the opposite. Like if you're pulled out of yourself all the time, or you feel like
Mm-hmm.
you can't get in touch with, like I think also learning to. I was thinking about it today, and it's kind of a little bit like uncomfortable sharing like publicly. Like I think there's a skill or an enjoyment to be had, like having a life you can sort of like hide in, if that makes sense. Like sometimes I think there's a point where it's like I need I need me more than anyone else right now. Like I need like uh like making the relationship between yourself and like that relationship with yourself or between you like paramount.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like so that's, I don't know, thinking about like meditation, I guess like I will try and get my mind out of uh the like, not that there's anything wrong with like out of the internet space for like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I'm going to uh hide in the context of my life rather, like, I don't know how to, it's, I'm sorry, it's hard to explain.
I
It's not,
get it. Your
it's like
meditation is getting out of the internet, maybe into real
yeah,
world.
and like hiding in real life or something like that,
Yeah,
or like
it's like, how absurd is that though? Like, why
yeah.
would we hide? Like, i- do you have this sensation that real life is actually in the social media thing?
um
Hiding?
okay, so I believe that
Mm-hmm.
I met a, I feel like I was like thrown into, like I was like not knowing I was thoroughly addicted to the internet, and then I feel
Mm.
like a relationship literally like threw me through the portal, like through a brick wall into real life, and I was like, wow, this is a this is a, like a lot different, and like um
Mm.
and it's sort of like, I don't know, I just realized like how much more like um you know, skin to skin contact with people and the world is, it makes you not miss, it makes you sort of wish uh it's like I feel like once that burgeons, once that is burgeoning into people's consciousness, I feel like the internet is either changing or is going to change, like just because so many like miraculous things like happened with, and I won't say that the connections that I created over the internet
Mm-hmm.
didn't sort of like nourish me, because they did for sure, and I'm thankful for them, but it's like there's something very, I mean,
I agree.
different, you know. And that's I think that's all I like gotta say for now. I think it's an interesting, like it's something that I've like, yeah, that I just feel like I sort of got a grip on. No, I don't know.
It's it's an interesting quote, though, like what you say. I'm hiding in real life from social media. That one is a turnaround somehow.
Yeah.
I usually hide from real world in the internet. So when I don't want to deal with certain things, like I had a in real life, I decided like a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, let's say. That time, I decided to start doing vocal practices and to be back on the stage, let's say. And so I went through the entire ordeal and got myself into real life problems, like got myself a real life stalker, and like it all got complicated. And then COVID started, and I just hid in the internet. And real life almost actually it became like those two separate things. One is real life, where me myself, like I'm myself, and the other one is internet, where I'm trying to put my real self and to shut down the acting, LARP thing. Like instead of being a character, like Kara Nodrik, the poet, like like I shut it down. Like no, and I'm trying to merge those two personalities now somehow, in order not to forget the real life because of how much time I spent on the internet, actually.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think like Peterson has done that pretty well. Um,
Oh.
um, I
What?
don't know. I think like it goes back to like I feel like something happened like with like I think there's a lot of like gleam to like you can sort of gleam on the internet and you can sort of like uh
What is gleam? Okay, so sorry to distract you. What?
gleam and glimmer. It's like you can sort of um like you can be a good person in the real world and then be a good person on it's like just having the like life to where you can do that.
Mm.
um I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that, but I always go back to like Theo Vaughn
Mm-hmm.
and like the ability to just like pretend the internet doesn't exist, sit in a cafe and just think about shit. Like
Oh.
like 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 there's um like when I was younger, my mom would tell me about like how her and my dad would just like sit in a like coffee shop or in a Denny's for the entirety of a night and just like talk. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that. Like, and I probably succeeded in getting the perfect dose like once, and I think like that sort of like I think it sort of goes back to my mom and how like I think she's one of the only people that I've known who is like okay in their own skin still. Like I'm sure there's other people, but like I could see her just hanging out, being okay with like thought itself. And I'm like, that's a very Heideggerian thing. That's a very cool, like it's a very like, and I don't know. I think I've tried to like,
Mm. I
yeah.
I was talking about it yesterday actually
Hmm.
with EM, shout out EM, and she said there is there is so much uh, amazing experiences when you both pay attention, but you don't have to pay attention to each other. She said common experience, like the two of you, like let's say couple goes out into hiking on a mountain somewhere, and they come on top of the mountain, and there is a little coffee shop, a tiny little coffee shop in the middle of nowhere with no guests, and like just like that some elderly lady bartender something, and she would serve them some beverages. They would go on a terrace, they would sit and look at the beautiful landscape, and they could do it for hours and just enjoying the experience, taking in, breathing in the same air, looking at the same things. And the conversation is non-verbal. It's still happening, but it's like in a touch of a hand. It's in the look, like they kind of talking without words while experiencing the same thing. And that experience is impossible on the internet. Like you can't share it because there is so many things actually, unless you both like in a very profound VR setting, but then still sorry.
Okay. So, everyone, this episode of Kara Nodrik has been brought to you by Free Time. Free Time.
sorry sorry. Yeah, real life is like, let me knock on your door. Okay, so let me check. Did we go through all the topics? Accept the truth, realizing there is no point in crying over the past, first step of healing. Is there a point, like we talked about hope? Yeah, to me, realizing that there is no hope is realizing there is no point in crying, because hope is like devastating to me. Like I actually prefer to completely clean cut than hoping it might work out. And there are actually people, like whoever does that, like don't string others alone just in case. Be honest. If it doesn't work out, say it plainly. Don't keep people, well, maybe that person will be useful to me. Let me like throw a bone once in a while. That's horrible. Don't fucking do that.
Yeah.
Like that's my experience. Like it's just like I hate that. And I don't do that. Also,
you either want me or you don't.
I actually don't know, so I have to, like, my self-awareness is like I've been caught saying something, and then people would point out I do that, and I was like, really? So yeah, shut out all hypocrites. And then don't be harsh to yourself. Okay, Shane, before we go, what advice do you have for people not to be harsh to themselves?
Smell yourself or the roses. I think realizing the truth, like realizing the truth, I think it's hard to say what the truth is until you try and look reality in the face. And when you see something good, I think that you should accept it as real just as much as anything else, and maybe err towards emphasizing that part. Do you know what I mean? Like realizing the
Yeah,
truth. I in the context of the relationship, so saying what was good and what you know what and then I think like that's part of not being harsh on yourself is like there are I think you should have um like whatever you think, have it be for, you know, the good of you in the future or the good of you in the present, regardless of like how like depending on how you feel, like what frame you want to like try and enjoy things in the present, or you're like, you know what, I'm gonna like make plans for the future, I'm gonna enjoy my plans for the future, I'm gonna um so I think like yeah, I guess like enjoying uh sensory perception or sensory stimuli. That's one way and maybe I don't know if it's an autistic thing or something, but like enjoying like sensory uh stimuli, like you know, uh
mhm,
just enjoying like yourself and the product of like, you know, the emotional fruits of your effort. Don't like when you do things that you like, yeah, do things that you like and that you would like, you know, be be the person, be the change you want to see in the world or whatever. Like, just like, yeah, I think being a little bit more internal, that has helped me. And like
mhm,
seeing like who I am in relationship to, you know, them and the world, and not being like too, and like maybe tweaking or reforming your ideas of, you know, your job or like your positioning socially, like, you know. So yeah, I think just enjoying. Hi, what's up, Dust2Dust?
Am I interrupting something?
No, no, no. We are summarizing the questions from Twitter. I don't know. I can post them all in the chat, or like, do you see them, by the way?
No.
So I will post it again here. The ways to heal a broken heart. So a user called Get Wise wrote those suggestions, and we are discussing it.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We went through it a little bit. So
And
if you, yeah.
it was, what was the last one that I was like,
Hold on. The questions
Talk
or
to
the
your
last,
parents?
to the
no,
parents.
not the parents one. It
Don't be
was,
harsh on yourself. So we are
oh
talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
don't be harsh on yourself.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like I'm really good at not being harsh on myself. um, like, like probably like too
Mhm.
good, to where it almost seems like, no, okay, I don't think, yeah, I'm pretty chill, and I think that has its advantages and disadvantages. But
Hmm.
so yeah, I think just like allowing yourself to like have your interests. Maybe you can see where they're different from other people, or like, or but don't like, yeah. And I would say like don't uh sort of like have control, but don't at the same time. It's like,
Mhm.
you know, you are the kind of thing that you are, and you don't want to like,
Yeah.
you don't want to die. And if you beat yourself up, like that's not like, that's not preferential to, oh, having a, okay, I think it's complicated, but having a general going towards, I think as a biological creature, we have a draw towards things that are pleasurable and and we move away from things that aren't pleasurable. But I think there's also a way in which you can start to see the things that I think I've programmed myself to where regardless, things have a way of being like enjoyable insofar as like I'm being authentic towards like life. And it's like, as long as I do that, then I'm not too hard on myself because I'm like living. Okay, I'm done.
Awesome, Shane. Thank you. I get it.
Okay.
Dust, I wanted to ask you, we started with the first question, how do we heal a broken heart? And it's been going on for like 45 minutes or something. But I would like to know your opinion. So,
on how to
heal a broken heart. In the chat here, I posted whatever some stranger told on Twitter, and we were discussing around that. But like, which would
what are you doing, Shane?
He's falling asleep.
I was
Like he did not sleep for like 20 hours or something.
Because I was like, oh, I slept a long time, and honestly, I think sleep's important. Like, even if you can't sleep,
go for it. It's
accepting that part of you that just wants to sleep your life away, but not necessarily like if you can entertain certain thoughts in your waking life and accept them, I think it can become like, oh, I want to express this archetype of just the sleeping beauty, man. I just want to sleep forever, man. I think there's a time and a place for that. And I think like there can be healing, like, anyway, yeah, there's a time to be conscious and there's a time to fucking just punch yourself out for the night.
Yeah, Dust, what do you think about healing a broken heart?
Depends on the subject of the broken heart. Is this like a relationship broken heart, or is this just a...
Yeah, it's specifically a relationship, and my projection was an ongoing relationship that ended abruptly when people realized that they're not compatible with each other, and so people still kind of have feelings for each other, but they can't be together because they no chance, because they will be miserable together, and that love is not enough to fix the not loopholes, but to fix the missing compatible pieces.
I've had to come to realization with this too many times in my life. Well, it's kind of like having a chopped off limb in a way, because your brain's developed all these little connections, all these little futures, and all these things that you've put together in your head. And it's like all those things have to get cut off immediately. But you want to make sure that you're cutting off the things that are real, like, well, you're cutting off realistic falsehoods, things that you've developed that are wrong in your head, and things that are right about the person. You don't want to cut those off. So it's trying to get an honest assessment, I would say, would help with coping. And it's also sort of like you're kind of demystifying that person. You're trying to take away that, trying to see them for who they are, and not less and not more. Yeah.
Yeah. You mean the realistic part? For me, it's like grieving, because all of
It is
those
going to be grieving.
possible
Yeah.
futures, they all were real to me. They all were like this motivating force, especially when you put in like half a year of effort
You can
in growth.
overgrieve like mad. And I've done that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Cutting off clean is impossible, actually. You can pretend that it's like, keep up the appearances, but on the inside it still hurts.
I mean, realistically, it's not something that entirely heals, but it gets less painful. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've always thought about like how David Goggins can't hurt me, like that motto. I think that's pretty like good one, because I think to the degree that you're like can remain with the same good habits and like remain we'll say, you know, dutiful, I think that's like important, remaining like dutiful in the midst of a relationship, not being completely distracted from like your God-given motivation to do whatever good things you're supposed to do, and like let that I think nourishing the relationship, for me, that becomes first and foremost, but also like being open to, you know, your duties or your responsibilities. I think that goes a long way in like, well, maintaining the relationship, not having the broken heart to begin with, but like also, you know, when the relationship does happen, it's two responsible, reasonable, like semi-reasonable, you know, maybe not reasonable people like talking it out, who actually have some things that they're like supposed to do, and they can somehow, you know, after a time, like remain in communication afterwards. I think that's like at some point, if they want to. Sometimes it's too hard, but anyway.
I see your point about David Goggins, though. Like, it's you have to have enormous amount of willpower, and David Goggins for me is like pure willpower. He's like the miles he runs without even flinching. Like it does probably take a lot of like effort for him to keep going like that. His motto, stay hard. He's I always was bewildered by him, but I can't imagine he has a relationship. I don't know, David. Like, I will check it out though. Like, but
He
I'm
has a
not
good relationship.
really. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so happy. So, but it's true. You need some amount of willpower to maintain a relationship, because sometimes you have to like, two things need fixing, and then you do that. Ariel, hi. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Something that it's actually the reason why I hopped on. I think it was Matthew who said something about like I forget exactly how you phrased it, but kind of like yeah, I forget exactly how you phrased it, but basically about like developing and how you have to discard some things, and you hope that you're getting rid of the things that aren't necessary or the things that are bad, and that you're keeping the things that are good. And I don't know if this is actually what you were alluding to, but there is this it's like a neurological process called pruning, and that's how like it's a big part of development. And I think it's also interesting because it's one of those things where, while it is like a biological process, there also is like when you're in that process, the things that you're learning and the things that you're really putting your mind to are the things that are really going to stick with you for the rest of your life, in a lot of ways. Maybe not like at the core of all your beliefs, but they do have a big impact on you, because your brain essentially rewires itself up until, I think it's like the age of 24, and you're still capable of learning new things. But it's like, once you're at that point, like, your brain doesn't grow as like fast as it could before. But one of the things that is a big part of that is also getting rid of the things that are not necessary, that are associated with like adolescent development, that serve a purpose when you're that age, but after the fact they actually can hinder you. And so that's also one of the reasons why people, if they don't really go through, like, because it isn't just like a biological process, it's also a sociological one. And so if you don't go through that process of maturation, you might have gone through the physical process, but it's kind of like you're still kind of stuck in the same ideas that you were before. And so I think that's maybe why, especially with the internet now, that people are able to kind of stay within their ideas a lot longer than previously before, even though ideas switch much like quicker than I think they did before. It's this weird sort of like hyperpolarization where people can believe a bunch more things than they did before, but they're also more likely to be set in them.
Well, it's also a case, the internet creates a different environment for openness to consideration, because you're dealing with so much negative feedback, and it's hard to know when to pay attention to negative feedback or positive feedback. And a feedback loop, it would be something akin to a speaker going into the microphone and the coming out of the speaker into the microphone. And when it comes to negative feedback, you can hear so much. That's something that's so overpowering that companies have come to the point where they just start to ignore it entirely. And that's why you run into this sort of bizarre behavior where they're just not listening to their audiences and so on. But yeah, people get stuck in their way of thinking. I mean, I think if you're raised properly, you're going to understand your comfort zones. But I feel like people, I mean, me, I clearly, when I was young, I was not taught properly how to socialize around people and the opposite sex and anything. It's just, my social skills sucked. And I feel like that's missing from schools. I feel like they don't develop psychology, or that's why I like Peterson, because it's like, wow, all this stuff that I wish I'd known when I was younger. Yeah.
I learned a lot from Peterson. He had a video, I think about 6-7 years ago, on relationships. Still, like, he looked so different there. Like, he talked about this idea of noticing the little things, and that opened up my eyes. Actually, I was like, yeah, that I kind of subconsciously knew it, but now that you say it, I will do it consciously. He said, imagine that situation when a person comes back home and his partner cleaned up the entire apartment, everything, and like was waiting to surprise with that beautiful dinner and everything. And then let's say one comes home, sees everything clean and the dinner, everything, and he's like, that's nice, but I see a spot in there. And Jordan's like, good luck making them do it again. Good luck. And he said, you reward the little things, like you reward it. And like basically he said, like, there is a simple rule. If you like something in your partner, reward it. If you don't like it, well, nicely, say it nicely by focusing on the things you want to reward and grow. So do not kind of, yeah. I have to, like, I should find a transcript of that
Well,
video.
that's yeah. He's talking about it's his. Just put in, if you put in relationship advice, it's like 4 videos down. It's like because he was talking about essentially using like the behaviorists perspective, like just reward behavior that you like to see in your partner. And he was using rats as an example. When the rat does something that you like, and he got
Totally
like
works, by the way.
yeah,
Works with dogs and cats and
It's
everything
very
else.
Pavlovian.
Yeah.
yes. And I remember my dad, I was like, he made me and my brother, he took a nap and he was like, okay, clean all this up, like shovel all this dirt into like this big pail and we'll take you to like GameStop. And so I did it. Me and my brother, well, I did it. My brother like freaking, my brother helped, but he was not as near at this point when the whole like, we had like a wheelbarrow and it tipped over and all the dirt fell out. And my dad woke up and I was like trying to beat him to it. Like I was like, Dad, like I'm so sorry. And then he came outside and he's like, all right, get your shoes on. We're going to GameStop. And I was like, dude, I freaking wanted to like kiss my father. Like at that moment, I was like, yeah, we're going to GameStop because I fucking tried. And that was like probably the greatest lesson I ever learned. At that moment, I was like,
Yeah.
And it's like,
that teaches you how to be a good parent too. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's also interesting because in that same way, you know, people learn how to be good parents from their parents, but they also learn how to be bad parents from their parents. So it's ultimately what they learn. And obviously people aren't doomed to repeat the mistakes of their parents. And in some cases, people actually end up being better parents in spite of the, you know, abuse that they faced or like the neglect or whatever. But so it's
I
like,
certainly
you know,
hope so. Yeah.
but obviously, you know, that's not the case for everyone, which is why it's like it all comes down to nature versus nurture. Like there is no formula that you can say is responsible because there's just so many factors that differ in every person's life. Like, you know, you can't just have a one approach meets all perspective. It never works.
Yeah.
I was thinking about rewarding a bad behavior. So if a person in a relationship keeps quiet about something bad that happened, it's in a sense rewarding a bad behavior, and it is doomed to be repeated somehow, and might lead to a broken relationship. So let me clarify. So the guy comes home and everything is clean, and there is a dinner on a table, and the guy is like ignoring all of that and says, oh, but why are you so proud? You missed a spot over there. It's like the carpet is dirty. And then if a woman is like, okay, it's okay, and then she explains to herself that, oh, he might be tired. He might, like, she will get herself into the denial, and she will not say anything to that partner. That is almost like rewarding a bad behavior. So she will actually accept the feeling of punishment that she felt when he did not notice everything clean. And that
Yeah.
one,
That actually reminds me. I heard about it. I forget where from, but there was like this one YouTuber or something who they called out one of the people in their community asking like where they'd been, and so this person said that they weren't around because their mom died, and so this person then responded like
I saw that video. Yeah.
yeah, sorry that your mom died, but I don't want you bringing down the mood or whatever. And so later on, this lady ends up actually like justifying the abuse that she faced, like trying to say that, oh yeah, she should have thought better before doing that. It's like it's honestly so scary because you see that like in an individual relationship, it's one thing, but when it happens in a larger scale, like when it happens, for all of society to see, yeah, it's a good, well, it needs to be talked about. Otherwise, it will be used for, probably to radicalize people like on both sides or to polarize people. But more than anything is that like you will inevitably have more people starting to think that's acceptable than there ever was before, just because of the spectacle of it.
Well,
wow.
it's like, yeah, I saw the video. That was a internet streamer who was like narcissistic as all get out. So, but yeah, I mean that happens on Twitch. It's like this bizarre sociological behavior. But I wanted to. I mean, we're trying to go through this topic, but it says don't be harsh to yourself, and I'm thinking that's also what people tend to do. And I remember a quote from Sherlock Holmes, believe it or not. It was he did not believe humility to be amidst one of the virtues. For to underestimate one's own prowess is just as much a departure from the truth as to overestimate it. And you should desire to see things exactly as they are, as opposed to undercutting or overcutting yourself or your thinking. So, and I think that what happens in those environments where you've got so many people and you've got this dominant personality and everyone's in the chat room sort of serving the person which is just it's a toxic environment to begin with, because there's no crosstalk, there's no person, they're just a bunch of chat pieces going across the screen who might give you a tip of pennies or dollars. I don't know. I find that's just the nature of Twitch, the nature of live streaming, and that, yeah.
Okay.
Well, to be advocate for Twitch a little bit, I did actually quit Twitch, but back in the day, my streams weren't centered around me. It was two people talking to each other. Me and Cordell, we would just sit and talk about everything. And the nature of Twitch would be just a conversation in between two people. And that's what I'm always trying to do. I'm very uncomfortable by sitting alone and talking to kind of screen. I like gathering people. It feels like I'm hanging out and exchanging ideas. So maybe there is a way to use it properly. I definitely don't like that narcissistic idea where there is this central figure. I call like with women, I call it a guppy fish. So she's like there, and there's a lot of like tiny little fishes around her swimming, and like Give us attention, give us attention, give us attention. And then she shuts out, well, Fart Monkey just said this. And Fart Monkey, yes. It's like that's not a conversation. It's a person throwing a bone and being like, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Narcissistic is very much what comes to mind. I do want to practice the art of conversation. Matthew, Ariel, I don't know if you guys heard it. The reason I'm not doing NVC I would announce, nonviolent communication. This is talking through possible material that I will use later for my YouTube kind of uploaded videos, carefully edited. This one is, we just talk to talk relationship, talk whatever comes to mind, starting off relationship. We don't have to, there is no structure really. The conversation can take anywhere, but we do talk around those things I posted in the chat, how to heal a broken heart. Like that's how we started. But basically we are, I'm working out conversation, let's say. I'm working out good things said about relationships that I can use later on for food for thought, and absolutely credited like everybody who partook in that, let's say, testing. And
reminds me of Jacob's channel. Yeah.
Shout out Jacob's. Like I could not join Jacob's channel, was busy today, so I had to start my own.
He complains like crazy, I swear. Anyways.
Jacob is asleep. Otherwise I would stream it on his channel. So.
But like when it comes to like healing anything that's broken, there's this one idea that you see like across cultures. Like you see it within Japanese culture with, I forget what it's called, but like where like when pottery breaks, how they repair it using like gold as the like as a molding agent. But in Jewish mysticism, there's this idea that because like part of the creation of the world involved like the shattering of the vessels, or essentially it's like an analog to the idea of the Big Bang, or like a contraction in like when you have only oneness, that you have to have a contraction in order to have multiplicity. But that part of this like shattering of the vessels or the containers of reality in order to basically form what we now have as reality, that there's this idea, and this is where the idea of like tikkun olam, or like repairing the world, comes from in Judaism, that it's basically about reuniting the like the holy parts of the world that are like sunken into like the depths. And so that's kind of like in some of the most mundane levels, it's like when you're eating food, that you bless it so that you return like the light that's in the food back to, or like it can get really esoteric, but like in, I think, the most basic level, it's this idea that in order for something to be complete, to be fulfilled, it first has to be like broken, or it has to be like it has to be lacking something. And I mean, I think probably the best way to view that with happiness or with love is that, you truly know what something is until you've lost it. And obviously it's there, that it's not as simple as that, because there's people who they only ever have like one significant partner in their entire life, and like to say that they didn't truly know what love was until they lost it, like that's reductive. But like I think on some level there is this type of appreciation for things that you can only have once you have the lacking of that. It's kind of like how evil really is only the lack of good, or darkness is only that the lack of light. And so with that, when you experience the negative or the absence of whatever quality or status there is, when you're able to regain that, when you're like, so say say you're surrounded by people and you're never able to appreciate the company of others, and then maybe like during during the lockdown and during the pandemic, you realize how important relationships are, and so after the fact, you take things much more seriously. And though probably lost a significant amount of friendships because you lose contact with people, it also makes it where you're able to strengthen those in the future. And so it's this idea that even though there's loss, that loss is necessary in order to build up to something greater.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I could take this to the. I mean, you could take that to its most extreme. I was just watching this YouTube channel called Into the Darkness, and it talks about. He had this one topic that was talking about deprivation torture. Since governments can't get away with the terrible type of torture that they're used to getting away with in the past, what they do instead is put people in white rooms with nothing, like just white clothing, white this, and no noise whatsoever. And they'll say something negative and then just leave. And they just leave them with that. And it's just, apparently people don't last 3 days because all they have is what's inside here. And there's no sensory, there's no world with differences in colors or anything. And so it drives them crazy. Yeah.
It's horrible. I will be off camera a little bit, but I'm still listening to you guys.
Okay.
To do something.
So take that with a contrast and look at something like when it comes to flavor or colors, like how saturated with those things we are. Like so much so that for instance, we no longer only derive our dyes from natural sources. There's plenty of synthetic dyes. In fact, that's the bulk of what's used now. And so along that, just throughout someone's life, whether it's through, packaging, whether it's the educational material that's used in schools, whether it's, when you're dealing with TV, you're dealing with, lights and optics as opposed to, dyes. But the point is that all this stuff, it used to be that the only source of color in the world was the natural world. And so when people wanted that sort of entertainment that we now get indoors, that, in a lot of ways, it's very conceptual. Like there's something very, beautiful about a tree beyond just, its aesthetic value, and that's able to be appreciated. But when you take that and you essentially, what's the word? You conceptualize it, it becomes an idea, or it becomes it represents something as opposed to just being itself. But I think going along with that, how many people are there that when they think of the flavor of lemons or of grapes or of cherries, they're thinking of the flavor of it. They're not, or they're thinking of that flavor. They're not thinking of the actual taste of those, foods. And
Yes.
and I think I don't exactly know how you could connect that to it, but it's very connected to the idea of the allegory of the cave, how in some ways we're more connected than ever, but we're also more disconnected than ever, because we don't truly appreciate what we have, because in a lot of ways we can't. It takes a type of distancing and a type of meditation that probably didn't exist in the previous world, because it wasn't as simple as going to a fast food joint to get food, and as long as you had money that you were able to pay for it, at the end of the day, the idea that it's not just that you have to have something of value that you can trade, but also that things that they can be grown and then stored for a long period of time, as opposed to when farming originally started, and before you have all these agricultural revolutions and discoveries of different uses of like how to store long term. People have to use stuff immediately, and so they live and they die depending on essentially luck. And so everything that they have, they appreciate a lot more. Whereas now, I mean, how many people don't even finish their food? And like part of that is because I actually saw I was listening to a really interesting video. It was about why something about like different meat practices in different regions. And so, for instance, part of the reason why pigs are seen as beyond like more esoteric reasons, the like functional reason why pork is seen as impure in Middle Eastern and North African countries is, well, actually mainly within the Levant and like the ancient Near East. It has a lot to do not only with urbanization, but also that the temperature in that area basically made it where the pigs had to wallow, like they weren't able to just be in the forest, because the forest started to get cut down and used, for timber. Whereas there was a lot more forest in Europe, and so their natural habitat wasn't as demolished, and as a result, they were able to keep cool that way. Whereas if their natural habitat is destroyed, they have to basically live with humans, use human structures in order to keep cool. And along with that, they have to use, things that are less than savory to keep cool, and they have to eat whatever they can get, as opposed to, hunting other animals in the forest. And so, shoot, I forgot how oh yeah. That's also part of the reason why like chicken is so common, or why it's so popular in the context where pigs typically aren't. And that has a lot to do with the fact that like you can slaughter a chicken, and that you can basically provide a meal, and that meal is gone. Whereas like with larger meat or larger game, you actually have to preserve the meat, or you have to distribute a lot of it through a feast in order to prevent any of it from going to waste. But now you just look at how much, that would actually be interesting, what percentage of meat products go to waste, because I'll bet you it's like so freaking high. It's definitely much higher than it ever was in the past.
It sounds to me like you're talking about just consumerism in general, and kind of like an oversaturation of the things that we have, whether it be oversaturation to our food, or oversaturation to contact with people, but it's not really quite, I'm not seeing Jane, not seeing anyone in person, and I don't have the experience of feeling biochemicals or anything of your presence or anything of that. And
I'll
there's
tell you, when I walk in the morning, when I walk down, because I usually in the morning I'll walk down to the store, I feel like I have warmer feelings towards internet, like specific internet circles, than I do the checkout counter girl who I see every day, and who I'm anxiety ridden to talk to every day. I have warmer feelings towards, and maybe that's just because the ilk that surrounds this is more like, I don't know.
I also think it's more comfortable to be behind a screen when you talk to somebody. You're seeing that person in person, it's like, whoa.
If I even open my mouth about esotericism, I'm afraid I'm going to get stabbed in the face immediately.
I can understand that. Yeah, I choke up in public too, because we've created a far more shy society because we're all behind our screens. Eh. And I think that yeah, like you have the opposite end where there's completely zero saturation, and then you have the oversaturation where everything is, we've got so many things in front of us that you begin to devalue the differentiations that you see. And basically what happens is there's two ends. You have one end that looks like a void, but the other end where there's so much saturation that it becomes void, where, yeah, hard to explain. We always
Oversaturation.
have like a middle, there's a middle, happy middle ground where if you look at, for instance, uh, for me to say a word, there has to be many tiny little vibrations, and all of those vibrations accumulate into sound coming out of my mouth. That if you're to look at the tiny frames of reference, you're not going to understand it. But if you hear the whole of it, if you hear all those vibrations all together, all at once, and you hear them coming out of my mouth, from that frame of reference, they make sense. But if you're looking at all the minute little tiny details, well, then the sense is not made because you're not seeing the whole picture. The frame of reference doesn't give you the whole thing. So that just becomes noise, where if you can hear me, it's not noise anymore. It's actually got meaning to it. It's a word. I know
Yeah.
it's heady,
No,
heady stuff.
So
Yeah.
I think like if like an internet space should be for you to maybe clear the path to ideas worth sharing in the real world, and then enjoying the people, like enjoying sharing them and being in that, like, having actual, as far as that's possible, relationships, but also uh uh tending to your voice so it's not useless out in the real world, out in the world, so you can you know it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of it as like what it's like where I found it.
I'd say we're like notes, and we play off each other and make sense out of each other's
Yeah,
ideas.
and it's like, I guess I think there's something inherently valuable in just sharing with, like, people, but then I'm like, um yeah, and maybe it should stay that, or maybe like how much should it be? I don't know. Yeah.
So I think in some ways you could maybe even tie this to the idea of like cult versus religion. So when I say cult, I'm talking about like the ancient model of a cult, as opposed to, the modern idea, which is a harmful religious group, usually referring to a new religious movement. But like there's really no way of saying to do religion. Like religion is something that we tend to view in the West as a, like, it's a category, like, like what religion do you belong to? It's something that you belong to, not something that you really do. Like you can be religious, but it's like being religious is just the only act there is essentially having religious beliefs and expressing them. There is real, like, obviously there's, you can pray, and that's an element of being religious. You can I mean, there's all these different things you can do, but the point is there is no word to do a religion. versus when it comes to the word cult, the reason why I think it's useful is this idea of cultivation. It's this idea of growth, of like meaningful growth. And like that's useful because it doesn't have to explicitly be referring to, you know, something that's theological. It could literally be like, you know, when you're talking about like pop culture, like, you know, a subculture, that's essentially a, you know, that's essentially a cult. And you when you do something with that, when, you know, you're cultivating your knowledge around that, you're cultivating, you know, a relationship with other people who share those experiences. Whereas like you can technically still use that with a word like religion or with, you know, hobby or with community, but it's like it doesn't have that same etymological rooting to it.
You're quiet, Carter. You speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit loud in my place at the moment. I wanted to go back to what Ariel said about changing your perspective on the internet, that instead of like, because internet is this whole way of new information and knowledge, and yet people go in the internet and they're less prone to change because they get into this confirmation bias immediately. They surround themselves with people who agree with them or like who share the same interest, and they kind of feed each other. And breaking out of it, and what you, Matthew, said, negative feedback. If you post something within the thought bubble that you're in, people from the outside of your thought bubble will attack you. So they will reaffirm that idea of that that like they're bad and like their ideas are bad, and you are okay, you're correct. Like you will not change your mind if somebody from the outside of your let's say group or like ideological group starts to convince you of different things. Yeah, so
Yeah, it reminds me of Mr. Medicker's. He had was it internet insanity. He did something on these people known as gang stalkers, and well, a group of people who were mentally ill together because they all right and they were mentally ill together because what was going on was they had these ideas that that individuals were stalking them, and that the government was stalking them, and that everyone was stalking them. And they had all these little rules that they would make up for these people who were stalking them. And they got together on a chat board and supported each other in this sort of crazy idea. So it's almost like, whereas one person used to be crazy by themselves, like, and okay, oh, well, that person's crazy. Now crazy sort of conglomerates together on the internet. Crazy can find more crazy, so that can grow into a bigger crazy. And then getting people out of their crazy is all that much more yeah,
all that much more complicated. That's true.
yes. And yeah, that you talk about the talking a person out of their biases is yeah, it's very difficult. But I find what you can do is just sort of, you're not going to convince somebody on the spot. All you can really do is just sort of gently display your opinion, and then maybe later on, like maybe a week, maybe months, maybe a year, they'll think back and go, does that actually make sense? And their mind might change. You never know.
Well, that's the reason I keep inviting people from absolutely different walks of life and ideas, not to be in the same kind of self-affirming bias all the time, but like to talk to an atheist, to talk to religious person, to talk to philosopher, or just a follower of Stoicism. And basically, conversation is good as long as I keep an open mind and just like try to hear another person out. I don't allow myself to be converted into any area though. It's just like I try to learn as much as possible, and then whatever beliefs I have inside, they're private somehow. I do not want to like go into the world and say my beliefs are the biggest and the most important and the rightest, or like the most right, let's say. Just like I
Well,
like to hear people out.
I disagree with open-mindedness, though. The reason I do is I've studied computers, and the thing about a computer is it's got an operating system, and your brain has its. You're kind of the product of the person that you've developed up over time, and anyone who's got an open mind has got a hole in their head. It's like I don't have a hole in my head. I don't download stuff. I have to consider stuff with what I got up here. And
well, it's not how I function. Like I do not have a hole in my head. I have like unchangeable, like I have a core of set of values that I kind of always beholden to. Like those are my core values that they're always there. The open-mindedness into kind of non-judgment, of accepting other, like of hearing other people out, and they might influence my values, but it's rarely happens. It's really rarely happens when my value would change. I would change my opinion on something, but it would not affect the inner value, which is like, I don't know, respect others and be modest, those things.
Yeah. And the other thing is Peterson talks about openness, and he calls it's not like a untroubled blessing, because the more open you are about yourself and everything, and also you tend to be very creative and very all those thoughts are all out there, but that also makes you extraordinarily vulnerable at the same time, because you're not fencing yourself enough. And there's other issues where if you're not creative or you're not thinking creatively, your motivation can feel like it's kicked down. So
Yeah.
well,
Ariel, you there?
Yeah.
What are thoughts? It's a bit loud in here. I wanted to ask you
I
guys
thought you
to take
said
over.
I thought you said it was dead.
No, Ariel, are you there?
No, I'm
like,
here. I'm not dead.
Okay. You amidst the living, at least. That's good.
I don't know. I am definitely very vulnerable. That's for sure. Extremely high in empathy. I get my heart broken. By the way, subject of today's stream was broken hearts. I had my heart broken a lot of times, like even by women. Like I always think, oh my God, they're she's my sister, she's my best friends, and then she would like betray me and stuff, and I would be like, oh, and then I also have a broken heart, and I have to accept it. And
What
somebody
would you consider betrayal?
this means she would stick around by me to gather. I mean,
Using you, huh?
somebody would pretend to be my friend, use
Oh,
me just to get a value out of me. And then the moment she would get this value out of me, she would be like, bye. And even sometimes using like our friendship and the fact that I trusted her against me, like exposing what I entrusted her, let's say that way.
wow.
Secret. And to me, because I grew up with a sister and trusting women is normal for me. I kind of always get, oh my God, my sister. So I get into that basically. And that trust in nature does get my heart broken a lot, actually. And then she once asked me, like, what about forgiveness? And I was like, I forgave you, I just don't trust you anymore. That's a different thing. Like, there are like one thing, if you mess up, I don't hold anger, but I learned I don't trust you anymore. Like, and so, and then they're like upset, like, well, then you're a hypocrite because you are all forgiving. But like, again, there is difference between forgiveness and learning from your mistakes. I don't hold any resentment, but actions do have consequences, actually. And that one is a big deal, how I can kind of move forward.
Well, that's an interesting one, because I mean, is forgiving forgetting? I don't know. I mean, I see the way that, like, at least the way I view, was it God would forgive me, I would consider forgiving and forgetting. But I mean, for my own safety, to sit there and trust, I mean, your actions seem completely reasonable to me. It's just, it's like, at some point, I guess there's a degree to where you've forgiven her, but there's a degree where you're going, I better be on guard.
That's the part of not generalizing. So because one woman hurt me, I will not stop trusting all other women. And the same with men. If one guy was like really less than decent with me, it doesn't mean that all of them are bad. And that's actually in the unchanging core, that idea that you do not judge the entire group by actions of one person somehow. So just because she particularly betrayed me, in my eyes, that's a betrayal, because if I would do that to another person, I would consider myself a traitor. So I would not do it to her. And I do not start being on guard forever with other women. I give them this kind of benefit of the doubt. Perhaps this sister will not betray me. And honestly, in the long run, that guard, let's say, yeah, I still am kind of naive in that sense. When I treat people as a blank slate, like they're like giving them the benefit of the doubt, pretty often they show the better parts of themselves. Yeah.
I hope so.
Welcome back.
Something like, yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. I've there's been times where maybe like I've acted I think also like understanding like not understanding someone when they do something, like not understanding someone, they're like an individual with their own like history and context. And like I think learning that as you would want somebody else to like understand, like maybe like a reason that you might have done something wrong is like uh I feel like a mutual uh benefit. It doesn't like I think it helps like uh further like relationships. You can sort of be you can sort of start to maybe like and then you learn, oh, you need to get to know somebody so you know their like their quirks that might have been brought upon by, you know, ways they cope with like stuff that's been done to them by somebody else, or like, and I think like yeah, I think that's like beneficial in probably only in like your like in a marriage, because I don't think that you should do that with everybody. I think but the more you do that, I feel like in your most like personal relationships, it like makes things genuinely intimate, I think. Like, or genuinely like you can express genuine kind of like, I don't know, you can sort of uh when you have that like established with them, when you have a relationship established and understanding, like it allows for simping, you know, simping for your person. You can sort of like, oh, I'm gonna be more understanding with this person. I'm gonna care about how they feel, you know. And I think like you only have so much like a reservoir, and I think saving that for like, you know,
Simp
the most
points.
the most beautiful person in your life is like why you have a relationship, so you can like, you know, that reservoir is like actually put to like somebody else can actually like benefit from it, rather than being like if I'm not in a relationship, I usually play Cupid and I usually set people up, and that's how I use that energy. And so it's like it's either going into that person, or I'm just like s- sprinkling it over like people who are potentially, you know, into each other and trying to make, you know, them more into each other and shit like that. But like, I don't know, or making them, you know, being a good friend and just watching that, like, I don't know, making them more intimate with each other and go have fun. Oh, like, I've done my good deed. I don't know. I don't know. That's,
That's a
but,
good energy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Funny being a cupid. That's an interesting
oh,
approach.
yeah, it was about, like, not having, like, having your guard up and stuff. And I guess, like,
Of course, I had a bad.
mutual understanding that you don't understand is like if you don't, and attempting to is a good way to like, I don't know, like it's like being the wolf that shows its throat and then not having it get like cut out, like just trust in that way is like, I don't know, like
No,
being it's vulnerable. Like, yeah, vulnerability is like I think you almost like have to initially be on guard until you feel like you want to be vulnerable, or else I don't feel like it, like, you know, sometimes being vulnerable, you know, if you're not healed, it's like, oh gosh, it's like there's that like you almost expect to be people are generally good, I feel like under most circumstances. So if you show yourself vulnerably, you know, most of the time, yeah, people respond in kind, and that's why you can't generalize, because you can actually have a good experience like with another. You can have like uh intimacy, I guess, with people, and it's possible, and you don't want to like not have that. I mean,
Well,
unless
I,
in the
I
time that you wish to have that, you like, I think it's available.
I would say there's it- it's it's like Peterson talks about the language of rough play, and rough play being necessary for growing up for young children. And you sort of learn that type of language, but you also learn that language when it comes to all types of relationships, not just the most intimate relationships. Though you're going to learn much more about that person whom you're most intimate with, you're still going to learn more distant ways of relating with people that aren't fully intimate, but intimate enough to where you can integrate yourself in a relationship that allows you to, let's say, fulfill the purpose of like working, or fulfill the purpose of being in a group, um, knowing when. And it's like when I talk with Jacob, and I notice there's massive tension between me being a Christian and him being a Jew. I have to take into consideration that we're those darts are going to hurt. They're going to hurt. Like I'm going to have to take that punch in the gut, and I'm going to have to go and just sort of be quiet, because I realize he's venting his frustration. It's his channel, and I'm not about to sit there and get into severe debates. And there's also a lot I don't understand about his viewpoints either. So I take the more passive approach, and it's a bit of openness, but yeah, it's hurt. It's a process of sort of being able to be tough and a little bit callous with it. Uh, I remember a movie called Gran Torino where they're talking about some rough talking. Um, it- yeah, there's just different languages to different situations, and learning when to how much intimacy that you can show in those situations. Oftentimes intimacy is not going to be the same or have the same effect. You're intimate in different ways.
It's hard for me to talk about Jacob, because I don't know, I never was in his skin, so I do not understand, and we did not talk enough for me to know why he's doing things. So I like to understand people first, somehow where they're coming from. So when I meet a new person, I'm like, can you please, like, let's talk, can you please tell me something about yourself, but not your like personal data, but like what is on the inside, right? Like that song lyrics thing, where people notice in those poetry completely different things than I do, and that's fascinating. It's like those missing parts of understanding, they fix it, like they bring a new perspective, and each time I think, oh, I learned something today. Plus, there is always absolutely unexpected music. So I think until I analyzed any song with Jacob, it will be hard for me to understand where is he is coming from. But I liked the idea that he cares for people, and that idea of being tough is important as well. It's like, whatever. Hope my non-violent communication will have at least 1% effect on raising kindness in this little corner of the internet. It's like, yeah, I just hope so. It's a great book, and I think it's basically practically for free. So yeah, it's so funny how people like impervious to like you're giving me a book, are you indoctrinating me, is this a cult? And I was like, what? No,
Of course it is.
And then that was very entertaining to think that I might be an agent. It's like, not to my knowledge. If I'm an agent, I'm like a very crappy one. Because like I don't achieve anything that
You're a triple agent. Yeah.
I pretend to be a crappy agent, and like deep inside, oh, I'm a brilliant agent. It's like agent has to have a name or something, like a goal. And I'm like at the process of figuring out how to basically understand what I want. It's like that poem by Robert Frost, we dance around the circle and suppose, but the secret is inside and knows. And like I'm still in the process of figuring out what my meaning is, what my purpose is, other than real life though. Like real life, everything is figured out. But like in the realm of internet with those possibilities, I'm still figuring this out.
Maybe you're meant to be like I don't know, like I was like, well, the internet's used, I mean, for information. It's a good place to garner information. How could you share information? Well, just host a game show, host like a quiz game show.
Oh, Shane, you can host a game show. You're always invited on my channel to like.
Yeah, I think
I do like the line by line thing. That's yeah.
That will be going on though. Line by line. Also, line by line on Twitter recently, there was an improvised line by line that melted my heart. So the New Scientist published an article, "What is Love?" And then somebody wrote, "Baby, don't hurt me." Somebody else wrote, "Don't hurt me no more. Oh, whoa." And then, "I don't know, what can I do?" And like people started joining in, writing tweets line by line, lyrics to "What is Love?" And I thought it was so amazing. Like it what you bring, what you come with, you can get really great things even out of place like Twitter, which is known for very toxic people. And it is true. There are things like when I wrote "Women are amazing," and I got a lot of hate for not mentioning men. And like, "Why are you so sexist?" I was like, what? That's not what I wrote. I did not write "Men are not amazing." Like, just like shut out women for being kind and amazing. And it's like somebody would imply completely different meaning to my tweets. Yes, that's also possible.
I think people troll too. They're just
Okay.
going, yeah.
Hmm.
It's like how dare you not mention men? So they can trigger so many other people. Yeah.
I wonder how much like I don't know if okay. So I'm just gonna like play with this idea, like, and you can tell me what you like think, but like, do you think it's like if you did, so this would be the reasonable like, oh, you post something on Twitter and you think it's, you know, or you say something that you think is valuable. Like I think that sense of that this is valuable, I think you should probably err on trusting that because I was like, oh, what if people are raising actual concerns? But I'm like, there's too many, like the amount of like horror on like I or the amount of like someone needs to write a book about like the horrors of the internet or just like I feel like showcase like a weekly like here's a post of the most horrible thing I saw on the internet just to like create an archetypal like 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 your weekly archetypal horror of the internet. I think that'd be like or like I just think yeah like it would be interesting. Um
There are quite a few channels that do that. I think so.
I
yeah,
would do the
it'd be like
opposite though.
and still I think like there was something to like America's Funniest Home Videos. I think that's a lot more like I would much rather watch America's Funniest Home Videos than watch the idea that I had just thought of. It's like there's something I feel like we got to get back to the 80s.
I miss Talk Soup. Yeah. Anyways.
Guys, what I thought? It's about AI learning algorithms.
See, that's
So
interesting.
yeah, but like, hear me out. AI learns about human psychology, but it also takes into account how many people write negative stuff, who is vocal. Like it learns from those tweets. And like people who write negative comment, they don't understand one thing, that in the future, that AI, which one day might even develop consciousness, will learn from what they write as well.
Mhm.
Like they contributed into the ocean of possibilities.
That's why it
And,
wants to kill us. Yeah. No.
but maybe if we put more, let's say, what is good, right? Like without, oh, let's shock everybody with horrible things. But we would put like, here is a story of people helping each other out. Like here is a story of like even I like Paul van der Kleen in that sense because he mixes theory where he talks about Bible and Exodus series and that stuff, but he also puts in real life stories, plus that really human thing where he talks about homeless people. He shows how to have fun with people who come into estuary. And like these are the real people. They are not disgusting. They're people who actually have hearts and they're creative and they write songs and like they have fun together. I love those moments. And I think there should be more of that than all this uh, let me shock you and take your attention away from real life with bullshit. Glitter bullshit. That thing I really was like, no, don't put glitter bullshit. Don't flood internet with glitter bullshit just for clicks of it. Life has meaning, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
The
And
thing is, people they consume the glitter bullshit. It's
I know.
it comes from the fact that our brain, the fear the fear mechanism is the one thing that'll shut down all the other executive processes or outrage. So that's what gets attention. That's what gets those clicks.
I can actually, like, I can make up a character that would get all this glitter bullshit. Like, I can have a line by line as Chekhov from Star Trek. It'd be like, okay, guys, how we do? Like, I would lean into my accent. I would play a character basically.
Mm-hmm.
Then I could do that. I just don't. I want the real.
I couldn't stand you that way.
Thank you. What? You don't? Do you know Rocky and Bullwinkle? There was this
Yes.
Boris and Natasha.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yes. And there was a friend of mine from Discord, Quill Day, and she said, "Oh my God, Natasha was so sexy." I was like, "What? No." And she's like, "Yes. Tell people something. Order people around with Russian accent. Just try it. Do it." Okay, you may turn on your camera right now. And I want you to sing Jingle Bells to me right now. So I would lean into Russian accent and like make absolutely bogus requests. And she's like, "Oh my God, I love it. It's so much fun." Yes, I can do that. I actually had this idea of reading Huberman's NRDR protocol. Like sleep, rest, like I don't know how it's abbreviated, but basically is he would tell it, you count from 10 to 1, and then you imagine a flashlight, and you shine your flashlight on your feet, ankles, and so he gets people into this relaxation state. I was like, what if I read it with super strong Eastern European accent? So you count from 10 to 1. So, yeah, I could create this sort of content. It's absolutely funny to me. It would be hilarious. And I'm sure people would find it educational because it teaches people how to do an NDR. Like, what? Sorry if I... deep rest, sleep protocol. How was it called? Like it's some abbreviation. It takes 10 minutes. It's a 10 minutes video by Andrew Huberman.
ASMR.
Yeah.
ASMR?
No, hold on.
CBT.
Non-sleep deep rest. Non-sleep deep rest. Yes, NSDR, non-sleep depressed. NSDR, non-sleep depressed with Andrew Huberman, 10 minutes meditation from Stanford neuroscientist. Yeah, like it's a coin. It's that new way of resting, which takes 10 minutes. I mean, it's not new, but like Andrew is trying to popularize it. It's like, it's not an app, but it's like mindful focusing on different parts of your body plus focusing on your breath at the same time. And after you do it for 10 minutes, yeah.
It sounds like a cognitive behavioral therapy meditation. Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm not gonna claim to have gained like the particular skill, but sometimes if I feel tired, like I can like in a split second, I can get a moment. It's like just a moment, and I'm like, okay, I feel rested, and I feel like it's allowing myself to like sink in or something. And I'm like, oh, it's like allowing myself to be tired so that I can keep going through my day. And it's like, I don't know, it's like, it's not sleepwalking, it's like sleepy walking. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be like allow myself, and sometimes I thought of it as like originally I was like, oh, this is resting in, God. It's like in the unconscious or something like that. And I was like, oh, this is really helpful to uh, get things done, like, and still be semi alive. It's like, I guess, I don't know. It sounds sort of like what you were talking about. I don't know. Like, not, it's like, yeah, I don't know if that's anything. It's like, because you were like, oh, it's a 10-minute rest. I was like, I think I can do that in like I think maybe it's a cycle I go through that's about 10 minutes, and then I feel like I'm up and at 'em if I needed, like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe like I interacted with someone in life who had done that, and I sort of like picked it up unconsciously. I don't know, and adapted it.
The second wind, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I probably just got that from like moments of exercise and be like, okay, keep going.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, hmm, hmm.
I'm just happy because Francois wrote. I was like, I missed him so much.
Is Francois here?
No, he might come in, but like I don't think so.
Okay, I need to know. He was born on July 22nd. Badly.
I don't think he will share that information publicly. Plus, also don't share that information, Shane.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
don't.
like birthdays should be secret in a sense, like because like why people should know.
Yeah. Unless you want to send something to, well, then I would have to give my address, which is also.
I don't feel there's that much secret about me, but
Well, as long as you don't say something super controversial, like I don't know, women are amazing. That would get people hate.
Okay.
women are superior. Yeah.
No, that also like what? Like, let's not generalize.
There was
I
a
mean,
meme. There
Let's
was a meme.
generalize.
It said like, well, I think like the one of the key experiences of like having a genuinely like a healthy orientation towards life is seeing, or a genuinely healthy orientation is being able to see and love the opposite sex and thinking they're the most amazing creation of God. Like they're the most like amazing. Like that's I was okay. This was something I think generally humans, and like just being able to see what you think is amazing, like just being able to see the amazing qualities and things. But he was also talking about how like, yeah.
Somebody's connecting. There we go.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, even goes to the idea that, according to the, Abrahamic tradition, that when God created mankind, that basically and so, I mean, there's a few interpretations as to this, whether like the distinction between Adam and Eve, whether it was like a physical separation or sort of like mental separation, because there's an understanding that the tree of knowledge is also like part of this understanding of separateness from God, and that kind of like this separation of experience. So almost kind of like how animals, they go about their lives, and it's not like they're not conscious, but it's kind of like they're in this sort of like different type of conscious state than we are, that we have benefits, but we also do have, downsides to it. But the other understanding is that they were originally like, just one being, and that originally, humans were created both male and female together, and that so there was a Greek tradition that separate from, well, I mean, like they're closely connected, but the Greek tradition was that basically that the androgynous humans were created with like the male parts on one side and the female parts on the other side, and like their faces were facing away from each other, and so it's like they couldn't even like face each other, and so in order, and it also goes back to this idea of like destruction in order to have restoration, but basically so they're separated, that way they can reunify, and that's where that whole idea of a soulmate comes from, that you were created with your soulmate, and that you were split, so that you were originally one, you were separated into a half. And so there's even this idea in Judaism that people aren't like they aren't like, not that they're not human, but like they're like a little bit lower until they are married, because there's this idea that you're not a full person until you're like connected with the other half of your soul, because it's not this idea of two people coming together as one, but literally two halves of a soul reuniting.
Yeah, which is terrible news for anybody who's single like myself.
Okay. I've taken like, I think like if you've well, yeah, I think there's the idea of like that. I've heard more like protecting your heart. My mom's talked about that a lot. She says, Shane, protect your heart. And I'm like, okay. I think that is like important. Part of me was like, as long as you like, yeah, if you give in a relationship in a way that's not, if you give in the right way in a relationship, I think that sort of does protect you from heartbreak, because it's like, okay, if you did things maximally beneficial for yourself and the other person, and maybe even like, I don't know, like part of me is like more for yourself, because then hopefully the other person is speaking up for themselves, and then you easily and quickly know if it's not going to work out. And that's dude, I have to throw this one out or to see what you guys think, because I don't know, I think like I just don't know, like
I was just going to say, one of the lines like before one of the songs I analyzed with Kara, so it's the song Isha Khail, or like a woman of valor, but before this it goes, was it like Loti 10 El Nashim, Chayalech, like don't give to women your chayil, or your vigor, or like your strength. And there's like two ideas. One is that like don't give it to them because they don't need it, because they have their own. But alternatively, it's this kind of this idea like, if you give your power over to someone, then they have power over you. So it's like, don't do that to someone who you're not absolutely sure is the person you want to be with. Like whether that's long term or short term. Like ultimately, if you don't want to be with someone long term, why are you with them in a short term capacity? Because days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months, and eventually you're like, oh well, you're just planning on being with them for a little bit, and then you find out that you're married to them, and then you're rethinking your entire life. And it's like, it's just better not to associate with people that like whether it's don't be friends with people who you don't like being around. I mean, like at the end of the day, if you have to associate with someone because it's just a part of everyday life, that's a part of everyday life. But at the end of the day, whether it's who you're dating or who you're friends with, you really shouldn't associate with people who bring you down or who, use, the trust that you give them to bring you down, or like, but then that it's also difficult because sometimes it happens from the people you least expect. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's kind of like you have to be cautious, but you also just have to be, don't, it's like with the people who, for sure you shouldn't be around, like, you don't even need to risk it with them. And then obviously there's always the risk with other people, but it's kind of like just part of living is that risk.
I have people around me. Usually I want to spend time with. By the way, Francois, how have you been doing, dude? I haven't
like
seen you in what, 2 months now? No,
Looks like he was asleep.
No, that's his way.
Okay.
Oh man.
Doing well, thanks. Thanks for asking.
I'm displaying, like, if I were a dog, I would wiggle my tail. Yeah, so we did this absolutely amazing song together, which was like a mind blower. And then Francois, bye. I need to like not talk to you. Sorry. Oh, dude, I'm so happy to see you. Real life reunitement. Reunion?
How many of those books have you read?
Francois?
No, I've been programming. I haven't been reading so much.
Oh man.
How is that going?
Oh, thanks.
Oh, so nice. The birds and everything. Anyway, good to see you, man.
Same, sir.
What was it? It was Ariel was talking about the feminine and the masculine, and at least to my knowledge, it has something to do with God. Was it man's being made in God's image and women are made in the glory of man? So we are God's supposed to come down and seed the earth, and gets quite how you put it, direct there, because I mean that's the whole copulation thing. I don't. I feel like men have a job where we're more focused on, and I tried to have a conversation with Kara earlier about this. I felt like the video didn't have enough footage, so I didn't post it, but it was men have to generally deal with the outside, or the reality world, or the front world, where they're looking out as, I mean, consider like how they used to live in tribes and have to protect everything, whereas women would have to deal with the insular world, the taking care of the children, and the relationship between that and the father who is providing.
So it's actually interesting because this is something that this one Chabad rabbi, Manis Friedman, was talking about in this one interview. It was actually with someone that I know actually interviewed him for this one YouTube channel. But basically, it was they were talking about, like, what's the role of the man versus the woman. And something that Manis said that I actually found kind of interesting, he later kind of went back and said, well, like, business isn't either masculine or feminine, which I mean, yeah, I think that's like a better statement than what he said before. But basically, so what he said before was that a man's supposed to provide for his wife, and that the wife is supposed to trust in her husband. And it's funny because so there's this one song, it's that song that I was talking about before, Eshet Chayil, that's sung by Jews. I mean, mainly Orthodox, but I mean, you also have non-Orthodox who do it. Where basically they sing it to the woman of the household, and two of the lines are, well, actually, it's not even just a line. One of the big motifs is that she provides, like she literally provides everything, from harvesting like grains and fibers and weaving clothing from it and going out to sell it and getting food from afar. Like she's basically in charge of all the tasks of the household. And her husband is known by, like, her husband is known because of her, or at least because of her works. But then the other thing is that one of the it's actually the second line, betach lev ba betach ba lev bala, the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he lacks he lacks nothing good, or what is that? Yeah, lacks nothing good. So the point being is, even the way we perceive it is so tinged by like European, like Western European society. But like, for instance, you could even look in like modern Orthodox Jewish communities today, and women are predominantly the breadwinners. They're the providers. They're the ones who are basically in charge of keeping the household going. The men are in charge of like studying Torah, but there's this idea that women don't have that same obligation because they're already in a higher spiritual place, and part of that is because they're able to bring life into the world. But that's also not to say that that's their only role, because like literally this is like one of the basically Proverbs 31, Eshet Chayil, is the ideal woman in Jewish tradition, and arguably you could say probably within Christianity as well, because it's talking about a woman who fears the Lord, but but one who's also industrious and who's able to take care of her family and her community. And so I think a lot of it just kind of goes down to not even biblical ideas, but like more so Western ideas, more heavily based in Greece and Rome than in any biblical tradition. But it gets so suffused into our culture that we just view that as a biblical idea, even though there's like modern, Jewish communities that are religious, even going back further. So this isn't just like a modern thing where you have women being the primary supporters and like maintainers of the household.
Thank you, Ariel. Guys, I will provide the links below for the Proverbs. We are 2.5 hours into the live stream.
I'm falling asleep too, Frank.
I know. I wish I could speak longer and find out everything that happened with my good friend Francois, who I didn't see in a while. Okay, everybody, thank you for participating. And
thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.